Sustainability auditing is the hot topic in the advanced auditing exam world and in the real world too. In this session, I'm going to be joined by Pamela Flanagan, who's going to be asking me lots of questions from a student perspective. What is it really important for you to know about sustainability assurance? How is this going to come up in your exams, and how can you be ready for it? That's what we're going to cover in this session. So, Pamela, what is my first question on sustainability auditing?
Well, I guess in the audit world, what actually is sustainability?
Good question. And it's usually the first one that students ask me. So sustainability and auditing. Sustainability is all of this kind of reporting stuff that companies now have to do because end users really care about it. So the users of financial statements, shareholders, investors, customers really care about the company's environmental credentials, its corporate governance, what it's doing and its wider societal impact. Users care about that. And so companies are now reporting on these sort of things. And where companies are reporting on these things, there's a risk that they report whatever they like and they make things look better than they really are because they all want to look fantastic and want to look impressive to their users. And so the auditor or the assurance provider, their role is to provide a third-party check on it. That these numbers or things that are being reported about CO2 emissions or how well a company's treating its staff, that these things are actually reliable and have some basis in truth rather than the company just making up whatever it likes. So the auditor's role is to add some credibility to these metrics that a user really cares about.
So to prevent greenwashing, essentially, so that we don't... Right.
Absolutely. And that is a term you will see quite a lot, actually. So there's various articles that the ACCA have put out, but elsewhere as well. Greenwashing is a term you will see. Companies trying to kind of present their green credentials in a more positive light.
Talking of terminology, there's been a few things when I've been reading articles, when I'm looking into it, that I'm a bit unsure of. There's a load of acronyms. There's lots of things that I don't necessarily know what they are. Can you tell me what they mean?
Yeah, there's tons. So the TCFD, ISSB, ER, ESRS, ISSB, there are so many. There are tons and tons and tons. And the beautiful thing for ACCA exams is you need to know none of them. Right? They're all there for whatever reason, but exactly, there's no marks for knowing them. You don't prove anything by writing out that you know that it stands for the Task Force for Climate Disclosures. TFCD, don't need to know it, don't earn any marks, so don't bother. Don't learn any of the names of any of it. They don't matter for the exams. In the real world, they do matter, but this is all about the exam world.
And talking of exams then, what's the really important stuff that we do actually need to know? Like, how often is this going to come up? In what kind of context will it come up? What's like the most important thing for me to know?
Sure. Well, this stuff is all fairly new. Okay. So it's not been reported for that long, and the auditing side particularly, actually the auditing regulations are only just being finalised now, and they'll be active or implemented from December 2026. So all this stuff is fairly fresh and new. And it's fairly new into the advanced auditing syllabus. And that means it's right at the forefront of the examiner's mind when they're writing exam questions. Auditing doesn't change very much, right? It is very conservative. I was going to say dull, right? But it's conservative. It doesn't change much. And what that means is that when there is a genuinely new, fresh topic, the examiner asks it or examines it loads. And that's what we've seen, right? It's been in the advanced auditing syllabus for, it first came in 2023. And it's been examined almost every exam sitting since. I think there's perhaps been one or two exam sittings where it hasn't been tested. Other than that, it's coming up all the time. We're seeing it in risk questions. We're seeing it in reporting questions. We're seeing it in ethics questions. It's a great topic because the examiner loves it because it has lots of different angles to it. And so they can write a real range of different exam questions to test you on this stuff. So it's tested a lot.
Okay. And then I guess there's certain terms, again, going back to like terminology in those phrases. Like I saw something like professional agnostic come up, and like there's all these terms that I'm just not entirely sure how I would go about understanding.
Yeah, what do they mean?
Yeah,
Which ones
exactly.
are important?
Exactly.
Absolutely, yeah. And that is something that students ask me loads. So the ACCA have published a technical article or 3 technical articles actually, but one of them is the most relevant one. Okay, it's the one on ISSA 5000, the exposure draft that's now actually becoming an auditing standard on how do auditors actually do this sustainability assurance. That technical article is really important to read, but it is, as you say, Pamela, full of these like technical, complicated terms. First one that you asked, I think you asked about professionally agnostic. What that means is normally on an audit, the auditor is the expert because you're checking financial numbers. What's the bank balance? What assets does the company own? What money does it owe to other people? What are its debts? These are all financial numbers, and an auditor has financial experience, and they have the professional competence to be able to test these things and say whether they're right or not. Loads of the things that are being reported with sustainability are things like carbon emissions, water. Like how much water, what's their water usage, what's their energy usage. These things are quite technical. They're not really financial numbers. And actually, to really know about this stuff, you probably need to have an engineering background rather than a finance background, which an auditor would have. So professionally agnostic means that the rules, the accounting, the auditing standards are for anyone to use, whether you're an engineer or a finance expert like an auditor. And the standard is being written in a way that makes it usable for anyone who needs to use it.
Okay, so then when it talks about like materiality and bifurcation and like double materiality, where does that come in?
Yeah. That is, and actually there has been a really good question because there has been a specific knowledge question in the advanced auditing exam on those different materiality terms. So if you're an audit student, you will probably know, you obviously will know, Pamela, but anyone else listening to this, you will know that materiality is a key auditing concept. It's a misstatement or an error that's big enough for a user of the accounts to care about. That's my personal definition of what materiality is. Is it big enough for someone to care about? Now, applying that within within the sustainability space, the first odd term that's added to it is bifurcated materiality. Bifurcated is, I mean, English is my first language. That is a word I had never heard until I read this article. Loads of people doing ACCA, English is their second language, so they will look at that word and say, wow, bifurcated.
Yeah.
And what it just means is lots of different materiality levels. So normal materiality for a financial statement audit of the finance numbers, we come up with one number. This materiality number is the level at which a user will care. If an error is bigger than $1 million, that's big enough to care. Smaller than $1 million, no one cares. It's not material. And that's just one. But when it comes to these sustainability metrics, we can't just have one. We need lots of different materiality levels, depending on what the metric is. So if it's something like carbon emissions, what's their CO2 emissions? We need an amount in tons of gas, if you like. So an error that is more than 5 billion tons of CO2 is something that a user would care about. Whereas if it's a metric on employee satisfaction, because they might report on that, how happy or motivated are their employees, and they might survey their staff. Well, you can't measure that in tons of CO2. You've got to measure that as like a percentage or a number of staff. So you need a different materiality level when you're checking whether that number's right or not. You need a different level at which someone will care if the number's wrong. It can't be tons or a number or a percentage. It's got to be different for each metric because the metrics are also different. It's just a fancy way of saying with sustainability, you're reporting loads of different stuff with different measurements, and therefore you need lots of different materialities to reflect that.
If they'd said that, it would have made it much easier.
Yeah, but what a long and, hopefully not boring answer.
Not boring, anyway, no, but...
Yeah, I tried my best. So that was bifurcated. The other one is double materiality.
Yeah.
Right, so that one, the word is a bit more obvious what it is. But it's not actually, double might sound like it's twice as much, and that isn't really what it is. That's saying we've got double materiality, and this is the one where there's been a knowledge question specifically on it. Double materiality is where we're having to consider two perspectives at the same time. We're having to consider a financial perspective, which is more like our kind of normal materiality for a financial statement audit, but also considering impact on wider society. And the term is impact materiality. And that's thinking about other stakeholders, people who aren't necessarily bothered about our profits or any of our financial numbers. But if you're, wider society, if you're environmentalists, you're a green group or what have you, what is the impact on you and what would you be caring about in this regard other than just the financial numbers?
So is there a risk involved then in being totally honest and telling the truth? Like, was it Thames Water got in trouble a couple of years ago for the sewage spills around the coast of the UK? And, there was a lot of people up in arms about it. And so, is there a real risk in telling the truth?
Oh, massively. And that comes back to that greenwashing point. A lot of this stuff, if companies aren't doing the right thing, they're going to want to cover that up because it makes them look bad to an investor. They're less likely to raise finance. Their share price might suffer. The whole point of this, having to report on these metrics, is it's kind of opening the curtains, letting the light come in and letting people who are outside the organisation be able to see into the company through the windows, if you like, as to what is actually going on within that organisation. And so if you know that people are going to be looking in through your window, you tidy up a bit more, don't you? Don't you do your hoovering? Don't you tidy the toys away from your kids or that sort of stuff? Because you don't want someone walking past and going, goodness me, I can't believe how Pamela lives. Look at that. Sorry.
No, it's shocking.
That's the idea. They're a bit neater and a bit tidier about what they're doing around the sustainability metrics that people care about because they're having to open the curtains and let people look inside.
That responsibility then they have to live up to. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think you've answered a lot of the questions that I have, but I'm always worried that I'm not asking the right questions or the questions that, other people are asking. So is there anything you think I really need to know that I haven't asked you today?
Sure. I think one area is around just how do you get ready for a sustainability question? This is something that students ask me a lot. How do I prepare for this stuff when it gets tested in so many different places? What do I need to do to prepare, to be ready? Because it gets tested a lot, but it gets tested in a reporting question, in a risk question, in a quality management question where you're having to review a file, critically evaluate a sustainability report, in an ethics question. There's loads of places. What you must not do is focus on rote learning. You must not get a past exam, look at past exam questions on it and go, I'll learn the answers to those, or I'll learn the technical article, or I'll learn what's in whichever textbook. Because every question that's come up on sustainability so far has been really different to all of the previous ones. So if you rote learn a previous answer, that really, really doesn't help you. And actually it's harmful because you write stuff that was relevant to that question, but isn't actually relevant to the ones being asked.
But presumably it's good to look at those past ones, see the kind of thing they are asking,
massively.
But just not learn the actual answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the thing that's worth doing, you need a good basic understanding of sustainability. Right? So that means the technical article. Right? So there's 3 technical articles on the ACCA website. The one on ISSA 5000 particularly, but also the other 2 are worth reading and making sure you're comfortable with. And then the really important thing you do, and you refer to it there, Pamela, is question practice. Because it's skills-based. And what you'll notice when you have a look at these questions is that most of what you need to answer the questions well is actually given to you in the scenarios. So it's not that you had to know loads of stuff about sustainability. It's that you needed to be able to digest what you were given in the scenario about this ethical situation related to sustainability, and then explain, use things from the scenario to come up with your analysis or your evaluation to actually answer the question. So the way you develop that skill is through question practice. And that's through working through the past exam questions that ACCA provide to us. But also, if you're on a course like mine, which you are, Pamela, We will be doing quite a few sustainability questions as part of the revision course. And particularly in the mock exams, I include sustainability questions so that you can really practice those skills and you'll be well placed for whatever they throw at you in the exam, rather than kind of pre-preparing too much for a specific type of question.
Okay, so it's that being able to not improvise, but like to take what you're given, use that information, regurgitate it, but
yeah, and
your knowledge.
to be honest, I'm saying that about sustainability, but that applies to absolutely everything within advanced auditing. This is not a rote learning exam; it's skills based, and it's all about using the scenario and writing an answer that's tailored to the particular question.
Great.
We didn't decide how we were going to finish the podcast, Pamela, but I feel like we've come to an end.
A natural close.
Cool. Yeah. So thanks everybody for listening. And thanks, Pamela, for the questions. And that's a wrap.